Hey, this is Carmelo Rodriguez, uh, author, actor. I don't even know what else anymore. Stuntman. Um, I'm with Mr. A. Come and find me at Instagram vet.series_studio. Find out where I'm at next. Follow along for my next projects, and let's see what we can make happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to have on the show today a very special guest as always. He's an author, he's a veteran, um, he's a father, and somewhat of a motivational speaker, as I understand it as well.
Yeah.
And he is delving into, I believe, acting. And I've seen videos of him doing training, I think like stunt training and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I would like to welcome to the set Mr. Carmelo Rodriguez. How
Hey,
you doing, sir? So, you don't mind if I call you Mello for short, right?
of course, of course.
Wonderful. So, as I understand it, you at one point or another lived in Brooklyn and became a PA transplant. Is that correct?
So, first and foremost, I was born in
In the Bronx.
the Bronx, and then we ended up moving to Brooklyn. So that was the move for me. Eventually we moved to Pennsylvania, but
Mm.
then um after I did my time in the service, so on and so forth, I ended up coming back to New York, and I spent some time in Staten Island, and then
Huh.
yeah, I know, right? And then
I live there now.
yeah, well, I mean, like the houses are pretty nice out there. I'm not gonna lie,
It's
but
crowded.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Super
But then
crowded.
I ended up in Brooklyn, and then that was it.
So I'm originally from Brooklyn and I moved to the Bronx and
Hmm.
then I moved to Staten Island. What part of Brooklyn were you living in back then? Do you remember?
Um, so I think it was Sunset Park area, if I'm correct. And then because
What?
back in the day, yeah, because back in the day, we were actually in a homeless shelter. So we
Okay.
were in shelters over there. They had a huge huge installation at that point. And then it was like my mom's and us kids. So they had like a single, like a parent like studio kind of set up for us.
Hmm.
We're living there for a while until my mom, she kind of like figured it out. Yeah.
You said Sunset Park.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a Sunset Park native.
There you go.
That's why the show is called The Set. It's for Sunset Park. So I grew up on 61st Street between 4th and 5th
Well, there you go. There you go. I think the shelter was on Fourth.
on 50 something Street by the library.
It's maybe, maybe it was so long ago.
See,
It don't
there's a
look the same anymore. That's the thing too.
no, yeah. So there's a shelter. Salute to my baby sis, Miss Mercado. She worked at a women's shelter for women in need.
I like.
And yeah, and it's so there was a library, a long-standing library on 54th, 53rd. And when you turn that corner, the shelter was there.
Mhm.
And it's been there for many, many, many years.
Yeah, that might be
So
it.
could be a possibility.
That might
Um
might be the one.
so you spent a little time in Brooklyn and
Yeah,
then you guys moved to PA.
yeah.
Was that like a culture shock for you going from, tenements and, you know, the way Brooklyn is to going to PA where it's more like rural, so to speak?
Nah, not really. Um,
Okay.
because I was so young, so it was just like we just moving around,
I see.
and that was kind of just it. There was a lot of moving around, and it was just like because we were broke, so we were very broke. So it wasn't even so much like, oh, this is this, that is that. It was just like, yo, we gonna eat today.
Yeah,
you know.
man.
So when it comes down to the actual struggles of anything, that's what you really remember. Like, man, I really went through that. Uh,
I definitely can relate. I remember there were times where we would I would think, damn, I should have ate that 3 days ago when I was in so and so's. You know what I'm saying? I should have ate that extra plate que me estaba ofreciendo tía, or whatever the case, you know?
Bags.
So I can definitely relate.
Oh
Um
yeah.
so from what I understand about you, I think that this upbringing and your experience as a child and
Mhm.
seeing the dynamic of having to be a leader in your family, because you're the oldest, right? Um, how did that affect your ambition and drive when you started to become a young man?
So, my parents weren't really involved as I started getting older.
Hmm.
My pops, he got locked up while I was fairly young, so he was out of the picture. You know, shout out. But at the same time, my man's still in there. You know,
Now,
yeah, you do what you do. You know what I'm saying?
right?
People just get caught up in the wrong situations. Next thing you know, life. You know.
Yeah.
Um, but it is what it is. My mother, she went through like this crazy depression, and then from there, she kind of was just like she was in and out, very spotty. So growing up, it was just me and my siblings, so we just had to figure it out. You know, what I
Wow.
mean? So having to endure all of that, and then just understand that this is your life. This is your life right now, and whatever you do, this is what it's gonna look like. So you're setting the tone for your siblings. So it just turned into there's no getting in trouble. There's no selling drugs. There's no going out. There's no partying. There's no this. There's no that. It was very basic stuff. We didn't have TV, so we had to read. We had to sit down and talk to each other. So a lot of the stuff that people deal with now, we didn't have those options. It was just like bare bones. After school, whatever it was, we had to sit down and talk to each other. Hey, how are you? How was your day? What was going on? So on and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So much stuff that people lose touch with these days. We had no other choice but to do that. So, growing up, I really had that was embedded. That was pretty solid. You know what I mean?
Do you think that having that experience, because listening to you, I've been married with my wife since, we've been together since '96,
Hmm.
right? And we have two children. And my wife always made it a point that we would always sit down and have dinner all together and do what you were just explaining. How are you? How was your day? So on and so forth. Do you think that had a solid impact on how you deal with people, one, and how you deal as a father yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Because over time, you turn to understand that listen is just as important as getting your point across. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're actually paying attention to what that person is saying, so on and so forth, you can take in their emotions. You have a sense of empathy towards whatever's actually going on. And then you build this personal connection with these people. You know, so to do that with your family, to do that with friends, so on and so forth, you become that person that they go to for when shit actually gets real, shit gets tough, because you empathize and you understand on a different level. It's way beyond text messages and emails. You know what I'm saying? We're going past that.
I think that and the reason why I'm sort of staying stuck on this point is, um this is a big part of why I made this show, if you want to call it a podcast or whatever, is because I wanted people to make a connection in a way that was more organic and more real. So, for instance, we've had ex Major League Baseball players on here, right? We've had comedians, producers, cinematographers, actors, authors. We've had all walks of life, and the level of accomplishment and fame, be it as it may, I still want people to understand that we need each other,
Hmm.
right? Ultimately, we need each other. And get beyond being starstruck, because these people that I have these interactions with, we're all the same. They're just like
Yeah.
you and me. We struggle, we deal, we have problems, ups and downs, so on. Everything that you would think a regular person goes through. So at the end of the day, their accomplishments are great and they're special
Hmm.
because they have this passion. But don't lose sight of the fact that we're all still human.
Very true. Very, very true. And little do people know, as you move up in the world, as you become more successful, whatever success is to you, you know what I'm saying? It becomes a lot more lonely.
Mm,
And it actually turns into, and me and my wife, we actually had this discussion yesterday, is as I'm moving up, as my projects are actually turning into films, right?
mm,
I'm starting to realize that the people that I would go to, it's no longer the same people that I can communicate with, because now it's, what can you do for me? How can you help me? How this, how that? So just a simple conversation, that day by day has completely taken a shift. And then, once again, like I said, as you move up, your circle gets smaller, and then you rely on, the connection that I keep talking about, because everything else is just, it's everything else.
fleeting.
Stressful.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You
Yeah.
you start to realize the connective tissue or the value that you would put on someone is not really that strong, because of that. You're what you're looking for and what they're looking to get out of it are
Hmm.
two different things,
Very
because
different.
they lost sight of, this is my boy Carmelo, this is my partner, this is my guy. We've been through. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And again, this is another reason why I do what I do, because I really think that people have lost completely the understanding of, we're we're important to each other, and we need to start stripping away the materialistic world around us and start being more empathetic, as you said earlier, to
Yeah.
each other, and being caring for one another. So it's an ugly world, but it's just a sad fact. That's just the way things are right now.
True.
But let's not go down a rabbit hole. Um, let's talk about your service. I want to talk about that, because I don't know if you see it the way I do, and I'm very interested to hear your take on it. Um, I feel like a lot of us, specifically people of color, when we're in a situation as such, we have very limited options to take our lives in the direction that we want to go to. And a lot of our people do turn to the military, for the better, for the worse, and it's an opportunity to make something, right? Because that's a springboard. Um, when you made the decision to join the military, how how much time did you give yourself to think about that as a young man, to say, I'm going to commit 4 years of my life to to this organization?
It was actually it was a split decision.
Mm,
It really was. For me, it was the only option, because it was my way out,
right.
So it was like, what they were offering was very simple. Hey, you can live the life that you're living right now, or you might live a better life, but you put some money in your pocket.
Mm,
That's what we're offering. So it was a easier choice for me. And then, more than anything, it gave me a skill set that I can use for further employment. You know what I'm saying? Something
right.
that I wasn't getting working at a restaurant, or washing dishes, or so on and so forth, because that was the only thing available to somebody in high school. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, so I can jump into some kind of like career move and see where that goes, and possibly go to school, or I can stay here. So it was a pretty easy choice for me. You know
Did
what I
you
mean?
did you feel any sense of guilt at the time, being that you were the oldest and your siblings, you were sort of, leaving the nest?
No. And the reason for that was it was to show myself and them, that it's necessary, to for growing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like just like the next individual would leave to go to college. Why? Because it's necessary for growth. It'll benefit your future, if you take this step properly. So just like the next individual did, I did the same. And it was to show them, hey, this is for growth, this is to benefit me, for us, however it was. And because of that, my brother did the same step. You know,
Really?
yeah, once he's seen that, hey, this was something that looks good for me and potentially might better my future. I'm gonna do this too. So I did it, and then I think like 2 or 3 years down the road, he ended up doing it.
Mm. Why the Army though? Why not the Air Force or Marine Corps or even Navy?
They gave me the option to leave right away.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So with the other agencies or the other branches, it was, hey, you got to go through this process and then this process. So it might take 4 or 5 months. And the Army was like, hey, give us 3 weeks.
Wow. So ultimately you enter the military. What was your MOS?
I was a combat soldier. I was a 19th Delta Cavalry Scout.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy duty. That's not a you
Doing
know?
cool guy stuff. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, we not we. Many of my military family and friends used to call uh and I losing the actual terminology, but they would call them bullet sponges. That's it's not meant to flatter anybody, but that's what they would call them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So now you make this jump, you acquire this skill set. How does that skill set then push you on to the next phase of your life out in the world, like when you're a civilian?
Yeah. So once that ended up happening, once I got done with the military, I decided to get into to the contracting side. So it was okay, but it wasn't for me. I didn't stick with it very long. A couple of my friends got hurt severely before I even stepped my foot, onto or in the location that I was supposed to be. So that was already, a lot of red flags. So it was a no for me.
Mm.
So I ended up finishing college. I went to uh, I went to a university I didn't really appreciate. So I transferred over to that's when I ended up coming back to New York. So
Mm.
I transferred over to a college in New York. I got my bachelor's and master's degree through that university. And while doing that, I was employed with the federal penitentiary.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How long did you spend overseas? Not contracting, active service.
Uh, maybe 15, 16 months, something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Was it heavy action or sporadic?
I would say for maybe 5 months of the time, it was very sporadic.
Hmm.
And then the remainder was pretty chaotic. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did, uh, I often ask this when I speak to people in the military. My brother was in Kuwait before the action started, and he remained there after. He's retired now. He's down in Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
Um, did you bring did you bring back anything with you? And if so, what were your steps to sort of work through that? Because I know war's not, we see it in movies, but it's not,
Hmm.
real life is something totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So, I would say every combat soldier has to figure out a way to their own way to decompress, right? So a lot of people have family, they have hobbies, You know, it's sad, but a lot of guys go to drinking and drugs, so on and so forth. I definitely went through my hardship phase.
Hmm.
Um, I was I was getting out. I was going through a divorce. I'd lost some property, and now I've lost the career that I loved so much. So I was going through some big changes. Um, at one point, I got into drinking a little bit, but that didn't stick around very much. Um, and it was mainly because, I wanted to better myself. I wanted to do something. So um, going head deep into the education side of things, and then having the communities within the educational system. That's what kind of uh, created my path that I'm on today. You know what I mean? So having the military community said it was, and that's one of the reasons I picked that specific university, because they were heavy in the veteran community. So they had a lot of combat veterans, a lot of people that were overseas that are now trying to figure their way outside of the military into a civilian career.
Wow, that's amazing. Getting acclimated after such an ordeal.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And having the support system is supremely important.
yeah.
And I think it takes a life of its own when you not only have, maybe you have family and friends, but then you have another community outside of the family and friends that are just strangers, but they understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a,
Yeah. And sometimes it's necessary to have that group, or even that person that that can see when you're going through something. You know what I mean? And they can help you, iron that out, because they've been there. They were there at one point. They finally got out of it, so on and so forth. So it helps.
it's very I think people don't understand. It's just like any addiction or any trauma that you deal with. When you're outside of the trauma, trying to help somebody cope, even if it's genuine, it's very hard for that person to really receive that love and understanding, right? They understand you want to be there for them, but it's like you said, these people know, they can detect when you're going through something without you saying a word because they see it and they understand it. So that's amazing, man. It's I wish you know this country talks a lot about love in the military, but I watched my dad go through like 3 knee surgeries.
Mhm.
He did 20 plus years in the Navy, and his knee's still bad, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great thing to hear that you had a great system behind you to get you through that point. That was just everything all at once is a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you also have to have the strength to go look for it too. Not too many people have the strength to go seek the help, to so on and so forth, because they're so down and out.
Hmm.
So it takes a little effort, but once it's there, it's locked in pretty good.
Yeah, man. You have to start with that person that you get up to every morning. And once you could admit that there's something wrong and you want to face it, that's where the healing starts, right?
Very true.
Salute, man. So all right, let's get out of the mud. When does the inspiration to start writing, putting pen to paper, begin for you? And what helps you understand what you want to be your first subject matter?
All right, so this is a good one. This is a good one for you. All right. So, um, now that we're talking about the military stuff, it kind of like works his way right into it. So, I was mistakenly declared deceased. Yeah,
On the
yeah.
field?
No. So, when I was working in the penitentiary, right? You have to leave all of your personal belongings uh, outside of the gate, because that's just the system. So after being locked down for however many days, I get back to my phone, and it's like 100 missed calls. The family's reaching out, friends, so on and so forth. My sister, she called me like I don't even know how many times. And I call her back and I'm like, yo, what's going on? And she's like, what the hell is going on? You gotta talk to me. Like, I got a letter from, whatever agency stating that you're deceased and this is to the estate of. And I'm like, what? You know? And and then going through my text messages and my phone calls, this was the same thing with all of my friends and my family. So I finally get to my apartment and I got letters in the mail for the for the death of myself. I'm like I'm like, what the hell is this? So now I'm reaching out to these agencies and I'm like, hey, this is such and such. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I got these letters and they're like, oh crap. And they're like, hey, you need to come in immediately. So after a little bit of back and forth, they said that, or that specific agency said that it would be fixed. And I'm like, okay, but how did this take place? Or how did this happen? Come to find out that um I guess like there was a glitch in the system that they had because they were going from one system to the next and I died along the way. Right? So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Except for the fact that all of the agencies that require this news got the news.
Oh wow.
I've been completely erased, right? So now the VA is sending my ex-wife a funeral benefits check. So now the VA has sent my ex-wife my final pensions check. So now the VA has cut all of my medical benefits, all of the benefits from for my family, so on and so forth. So now my bank account is closed. So now they're starting to question my career because they're like, whoa, you're doing this, but you don't exist anymore. So what are you doing? So when you actually think about it, it's like, would you ever be prepared for something like that? Do you have the money saved up for that?
Yeah, because you gotta hold yourself over.
You're gonna go to a grocery store and they're gonna say, yo, all of your cards are declined.
Wow.
And then you're gonna go to the bank and they're gonna be like, yo, we took your money because you dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, am I gonna figure this out? So then throughout the process I was journaling. And then from the journaling, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. And I started the YouTube channel and kind of like ran with that. Would you ever be prepared for that kind of stuff? Are you prepared for it? You know? And then it was like I ended up talking to a bunch of attorneys and nobody could help. Everybody was like super sympathetic, but they're like, yo, we don't even know where to start. Like how to figure this out, how to, how to tackle this.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So the agency is switching systems, and somewhere along the line, you're deleted. So they just can't undo control you, and just
No.
that's not how it works.
So it's a spiraling kind of thing
The
because
domino effect, essentially.
yeah. So as one agency brings you to life, all of the other ones are still putting you down as deceased. So now you're doing this thing that so you got the first one, right? And now you're going to the second one, right? But while the second one is starting to bring you to life, the third and the fourth one is kicking you off the map. And then it goes back around. So as you get to the last one, it's already this I think like a 30-day window. If I'm correct, it's been such a long time. But it's like a 30-day window that you have to fix all of this because if you don't, then it's going to start all over again.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So
Did you
to
ever
get
did you ever consider, and I'm just this is just for comedic effect only? Did you ever consider just like, yo, I'm good,
I'm tapped out, you know?
peace?
No, no, no. I mean, like it was like all of my friends, they thought it was absolutely this, but I already had so much going on with my life that I was like, there's no way, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I did the YouTube channel, and then that turned into Pix 11 News reaching out to me, and they were like, yo, is this real? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, yo, we got to come down there and show us all the paperwork, and we're gonna put up a story about this.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, cool. So then that ended up taking off. So my social media took off, and then after that, then it was like, are you gonna write a book about this?
Great idea.
And I'm like, I've already been journaling this whole process, and it was mainly like all of the stuff that I didn't want people to see on my YouTube channel, whatever it was. I was putting down on paper. You know what I'm saying? What it really felt like to me, and what I was really dealing with. So I put that down, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write about this. I turned that into a book, and that took off. So
Wow.
then it was the next question. Yo, is this gonna turn into a movie? And I'm like, yo, I'm still trying to process the fact that I just wrote this book. But that took off in a solid direction. And then it was like, okay, so let me see what else I could write about.
Mm.
So one book turned into two, turned into four, turned into six, and now I'm 15 deep.
Hey, yo, 15.
15.
W- it- do you have a specific genre that you favor? Like I've written these books, and out of these books, I really enjoy this genre.
Yeah. So I would say um the true crime.
Okay.
I would say true crime. And this was something that friends have told me for a long time. They said, hey, uh because you already have the skill set in play, and you already have the education behind it, why don't you start doing like investigations on your own stories? Like, why don't you really start dabbling into real investigations, and kind of like go the journalist path of things?
Right.
And I'm like, all right, well, let me take it into account and see what I come up with. And then some family reached out to me, and they said, hey, we got a real story. This is a real case that's in Pennsylvania, and it's moving along, and we just want to get this out to the world because it's scary.
Right.
So now I'm intrigued, right? So I'm like, why are you reaching out to me in the first place? And then I forgot that I put an ad on my social media. Hey, if you got a real story, reach
Hit
out
me
to
up.
me.
Bueno, ¿qué
So
te pasa?
yeah, so I'm like, all right, right.
Mm.
And then they go in, and it was about their daughter.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and their daughter at the time, I think she started at like 10 years old or something like that. Um, they thought she had like psychopathic tendencies, right?
Mm.
So she ended up doing some counseling and all this other stuff. And then the family started realizing that the animals in the house started disappearing,
Wow.
or they were around, they started dying, and it was something that was just like getting worse over time. And then it turned into the siblings. She was, yeah, it's wild. There was I'm not gonna give the whole story, but at one moment, she tried to drown one of her sisters, which was, I think, like 1 years old or something like that,
Uh-huh.
because she wanted to see what that looked like.
Was this girl adopted or was this their natural born daughter?
It was theirs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 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 and that was just one. And then, things ended up getting worse. Um, it got to the point that mom almost died. And dad almost died as well. But she ended up getting incarcerated. And
At what age?
by that time she was like 12.
What?
Yes.
Jesus. How
Yeah.
big was this girl?
What the heck is going on here? So I'm like, bullshit. So they're so then I'm like, I gotta go over there. So I went to the house. I started, talking to these people, talking to whoever I had to talk to. They started pulling out paperwork on top of paperwork, and I'm just like, yo, this is nuts. You know? So then they started she was at one point she was hiding the animals in the little vents in her room. And
Ugh.
yeah, and they were trying to get another apartment around that time frame because they were like, yo, it smells like death in this house. So I'm
Yeah.
like, all right. And they were like, you don't believe us. Yo, they took me to the room and I'm like, espérate, coño.
Eran blanco esta gente.
Yo, no, no, Latino. And I'm like, this is
What?
crazy. I'm like, how? I'm like, how? Like, how is this a thing? But they, after doing that, she ended up doing like counseling. I think she still does counseling. If I'm kind of like following the story, but not as frequently as I was.
Hmm.
But she was doing counseling for a very long time, and some kids are just born that way. You
That's
know,
nuts.
yeah. But the reason that they reached out more more important than anything else is Pennsylvania is looking to let her go.
What? Like let her out of jail?
Yeah, yeah.
How? How?
That's why they reached out.
That is berserk.
So that book is definitely going to turn into a part two.
Mm,
Um, creating that story, from the family, just sitting down and doing whatever that I can, that touched a lot of places, and it went really far. It ended up making me a bestseller. So I became a bestseller by telling their story. And ever since then, once I made that pivot, I've kind of just stuck with that angle. And
okay.
well,
Do I see? As I said earlier, I looked at a couple of your videos and I noticed you doing like coordinated stunts and things of that nature.
yeah.
So am I wrong to assume like the acting bug has taken hold and you're looking to sort of get into that as well?
Yes. So throughout the time of writing books, I've been approached to turn, I would say at this point, 3 books into actual film.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's in play right now as we're talking.
Okay.
But in doing so, I've been in, I think, 5 movies now.
Mm,
The last one that I did was a horror film. It's called Desert Fins. It's actually really cool. It's a comedy horror, but they yeah, and I'm supposed to be fighting one of the monsters along the way or whatever. It's a really cool scene. Um, but with the experience that I have, doing whatever I did previously, it automatically got me into the role of doing the stuntman stuff as well as the acting because of my uh motivational speaking stuff and my public speaking stuff. So it was a it was a home for me. That was kind of just it. I
you're
fit very well in that place. So now I'm working on another film, another horror film. It's like a Jason Voorhees spinoff or something like that. It's
okay.
actually it's kind of cool. But they have me in a really big fight scene, and I'm supposed to be fighting Jason. So
Oh, oh wow.
yeah,
It's crazy to think, and I'm not gonna ask you your age, but I know how old I am.
Mm.
And I remember, because you're saying Jason Voorhees, to think of where I was when I saw the preview for the very first one, to still hear that guy's name in 2023
Yeah.
really makes me feel old. So yeah, Jason Voorhees. it,
That's wild, right?
it is incredible to think that his name is still relevant in 2023. But I remember seeing the trailer for that movie and how it was supposed to be 13 parts.
Yeah.
And, and it's crazy, but congratulations, man. I'm very happy for you.
Right.
Um, I think that especially we have like stigmas attached to our culture. And the more we have examples of people like yourself breaking those stigmas, it's important. Especially for, specifically for our young people. We don't all have to be a rapper. We don't all have to be an athlete. There are other avenues and vehicles to express yourself, one, or career options,
Hmm.
right? We can be the people that are in the boardrooms. And I think the most important thing for us is to have those examples. There's a lot of great Latino actors. Um, a gentleman that I admire very much, Benicio del Toro. I think he's tremendous, and he has a very strong sense of pride of who he is and the love of his people. All the way down to somebody like a newcomer, a gentleman who's an influencer named Mark Rain out of Spanish Harlem. He just made an appearance last night on, I think it was CSI. I could be mistaken, but he's a young man, very talented. But again, I think it's very important that we have these examples there. You know, especially your expression in writing. Writing books. You know, from my perspective, our culture looks down on the creative. They look down, so to speak, on being an artist. Unless you're banging a conga or playing something. You understand what I'm saying?
I completely agree. I
Yeah,
completely agree. Like the hard work goes a long way, and it's more than just wearing your body down. You know,
right,
your strongest muscle is your mind. You know what I'm saying? So if you know how to if you know how to think, you know how to put concepts together, so on and so forth, use it. Be wise. I say by the time that I'm 40, 50 years old, I still want to be able to function like I'm a young man. You know what I'm saying? I still want to be able to chase after my kids, so on, and just have a good time, rather than be in the hospital all the time with my back going out and my knees buckling, and having all of these unforeseen problems, because that is just our culture or how we grew up. It was always physical labor, you
right.
know. But if you can make that change and really gain some money out of it, I don't see what the issue is.
I think that again, it's a cultural thing. I can remember my first visit to Puerto Rico, and meeting my cousins for the first time, because I wasn't one of those kids that got sent out there when as a young kid. Like my sisters were sent out there when they were young. Um, but I remember my cousin Janito telling me what he used to do for money. He was still back then in the 80s cutting caña, cutting sugar cane.
Shit.
Cada peso, cada uno. A dollar for each one. And
Damn.
Puerto Rico is hot.
Yeah.
The sun is like I see leaning on you when you walk outside.
All
And
day. Oh,
yeah, and this is a time where we're talking about people who have been, generations who have been in Puerto Rico. So there's no AC. There was, in the 80s when I went, my aunts and my family, they didn't have AC. That's a bill, right? So tú estás dormido, sudado, like a runaway slave, bro, just
yeah.
in a puddle of sweat. So
Hmm.
I think it's immensely important, to your point, that if we use our minds, work smarter, not harder, and actually be brave enough to approach our talents and our ideas and dreams, that we can definitely change a lot of like I said earlier, the stigmas around our culture. There's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful artists in our culture. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But to speak to that, now in this day and age, as a father, what are some of the things, especially coming from where you came from in your experiences,
Mm.
what are some of the things that you're hoping to impart to your son as he becomes a man?
So, I think more than anything, he's gonna learn. He's gonna learn the concept of family. I feel like that's, growing up struggling with my own. I want to instill that in him as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we all we got,
It's a
and
fact.
everything from home. Everything starts from home. You know. So, you know, whether or not, me and my wife, we have our days, so on and so forth. We do our best to make sure that, the kids don't see all of that, whatever it is, right?
Right.
Because we're trying to instill that, what I'm saying, that foundation, and, build from what we never had. So we're literally just like creating this,
Hmm.
you know, because for me, for her, broken home was normal, you know. It became a normal thing, you know. So now what? So now you're telling me like having a solid family, a full family is taboo? No, we're not over here. We're not doing that. So we're trying to instill into our kids, family is necessary. Learning your finances is extremely necessary. You know,
Hmm.
building wealth is necessary. Locking down all of the stuff that we were never taught, or that they don't even teach us in school anymore, or they don't teach anybody. You know, what are taxes?
Hmm.
You know,
Credit, financial literacy.
what's credit? You know, yeah. When you do go to college, what careers are going to give you the best future?
If any.
You know what I'm saying? What traits?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So to be able to instill it in them now, I feel like it's my duty as a parent, as a father, to put it on them now. And I'm gonna still do it. And I'm gonna do it all the way until, I'm old and gray, and they're like, "Hey, now you're the little viejito that's full of wisdom and advice." You know, that's success for me. So
Amazing.
everything, beyond that, all of the work that I'm doing now is just part of, building my family, and that's how I look at it.
It's part of the bigger picture.
Yes.
I think that, and I'm glad you said what you did. I think that, you know, as men, a lot of the males, and I'm going to call them males that I see around me, I'm fortunate enough to have a few people that I look at and I'm like, yo, those are solid men. These guys understand that at all costs, we have a duty. Um, I, I think that, especially in today's environment, you know, we have to continuously send the message that we have a duty. We
Mm,
have a duty to our family, and I think that young men today, that message has been lost. I didn't have my dad. My dad wasn't in my life
mm,
actively, right? My parents separated, whatever. It was a lot of reckless non-co-parenting, right? So that example was never there. But what I understood in all that noise, because that's what I call it, in all that noise, I learned a very good lesson, a tremendous lesson. And I understood that as a father, as a husband, and as a man, that my children would never question how much I love them. One,
mm.
they would never feel like they were, uh, what's the best word I could use to make this sort of, they were my responsibility,
Mm.
right? They're not a burden. And they always knew that no matter what they did in life or where they went, that they could pick up that phone at any time and call me, and I'm there.
Yep.
And those are the three things that I really shaped sort of how I moved in my kids' lives with my wife. Always letting them know,
Hmm.
no matter what, I'm here. It doesn't matter that I don't get the big piece of chicken, which is a lie because my wife, I llenar el plato así, like for two people. Super old school.
That, that's the way it works, man.
No, yeah. Um, but my children have grown up in life understanding that me as their father, yeah, it's not fun. It's not supposed to be.
Mm,
Yeah, it's not great. It's not supposed to be. This is life. Life is fucking difficult.
mm,
But understand that the example that you see for my daughter, especially when she goes to pick a mate, yo, dude, really? Like
yeah.
the barometer is set,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and that message needs to be ingrained in these young men that are here in this world today. And I really don't think it is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I want to ask you because you stressed an important point about family. Do you feel like people are losing their grip and understanding because they're living by their lower impulses? That's how I see it. People live by their lower impulses. I'm gonna just do whatever, and so what?
Yeah.
Mm,
I feel like maybe, and maybe this is just my opinion,
mhm,
but with individuals not, I guess, like understanding how important relationships are and can be, they just they letting it go. And they don't, some people, they just don't understand the grasp of it all. Over time, if you're so caught up in the concept or idea that, for instance, let's go with dating, concept of or idea that, okay, this is fun, but now it's not fun, so I'm out. you know so when it actually comes down to struggling, and when it comes down to, I say that you really start noticing when you love somebody, when you're going through that struggle with them, right? If you never have that, you never learn, you never understand, and you're always just looking for the fun out of everything. So where's your building your connection, your bond with other people? You don't have that. You know what I mean? So I would say people need to just learn to stick it out sometimes, and then, once you get to learn the person that you're with, that becomes your person over time. And whether or not that's a relationship that turns into a friendship, or that turns into, a real, relationship, possibly marriage. You never know until you actually like stick that shit out beyond, well, this person's hot and we're just gonna have sex or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
I like to liken a relationship to building a house. So to your point, you can have all the bricks, but what's the important thing you have to put between each brick? You have to put a layer of cement that makes it bond. And if you don't have a strong foundation, you're building on shit.
Mm-hmm.
The house is not going to stand when there's a storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, it's not about the fun. It's great to have the fun. It's beautiful to be with a person that you can actually enjoy their company
Mm.
and be actually have that friendship with. But what happens when there's a storm? What happens when there's a problem? You can't fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of dudes today, the males today, have terrible fucking examples of what it's supposed to be. Like you got all these red pill movement and oh she gotta. If your woman doesn't know how to do anything unless you tell her or instruct her, what happens when you're not around and something goes wrong?
Mm.
Es un perro, right? That's not a partner.
I
But
mean, once you come down to it, you know what I'm saying? Both of you guys are a team coming into this. You know what I mean? So, find your partner, find your teammate. Because how long have you been married?
I say since '96. We've been together.
Okay.
Yeah, '96.
So it actually, so for you, it's actually come down to like a look. You know what I'm saying? So that's your person. So it
Yeah.
actually like, and she can speak for you because she already knows. Like she's like, no, he's not gonna like that. How do you know?
Hmm.
'Cause I know him. He's not gonna like that. Or
Absolutely.
that's my man. You know. And there's no
Hmm. Hmm.
because that's your person. That's your teammate. You know.
Hmm.
So, but it takes time. You know,
Yeah.
all that jealousy, all the envy, whatever. If there's any envy, all the, disagreements, all of that. All you're doing is learning one another. You know what I mean? And then, you know, building a family off of that. Now
Yeah.
you can give the advice to your kids and to, so on and so forth. So when they're doing that, you can say, look, this is what we went through, but this is how we got through it. How can you
Right.
give that advice if you stop in the very beginning?
I tell my son and my daughter all the time, I never take it. I never take financial advice from a broke person. I
Agreed.
just all you know how to do is make the mistake. You haven't recovered, so I can't listen. All you're gonna do is tell me what to do that's wrong. So I can't really listen to you.
Yeah.
Now you lost it all and got it all back. All right, let's sit down and talk. And that's essentially a marriage.
Yeah.
Because when you're in it, dude, there's times I'm sure your wife feels like that about you. Yo, I want to kill this fucking dude. Bella.
Yeah.
And then there's times that you feel like you're like, yo, this woman just, ay Dios mío, I'm so easy. Why doesn't she get it? We all go through those things. But like you said earlier, being there, present, and sticking it out to get beyond the problem, that's the point of it all. And as
Mhm.
time goes on, you learn and learn how to work smarter and not harder.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Still,
Um,
man, we still knuckleheads, you know?
no, of course. I mean, we don't know how to do shit right. Right? I told you to do the dishes, but you're supposed to clean the countertops and the stove too.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, why don't you just say that? Married talk. um, so let's shift gears a little bit. Uh so where are Mello, where are we presently? Like what do we have happening in the near future, or what would we like to see happen in the near future? Like what are the endeavors that we have on the horizon?
So I would say right now I'm working on um that Jason Voorhees movie. Um
Okay.
I got I'm working on a prison trilogy, which is
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I've already been told, I don't want to go too much into it, but I've been told that you've seen The Wire, right?
Of course.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
So imagine from a CEO's perspective.
Oh wow. The Wire from the CEO's perspective.
Yeah. So, so imagine whether or not they become crooked or they solid along the way, to give that a thought or to bring that to life. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So that's what I've been told this trilogy is looking like right now. So I'm pretty excited about it. You know what I mean? I'm playing with a couple of concepts, a couple of ideas. And then one thing that I have been doing is I have been reaching out to actual, officers who's actually like lived this kind of BS or went through it or had a friend, so on and so forth. So a lot of the information and a lot of the stories that I'm piecing together are pretty accurate.
So I assume you're reaching back out to your old coworkers from when you was
No comment.
okay. I'll take that. That's acceptable. Um, that's a crazy concept.
Mm,
Those shows, The Wire is tremendous,
yeah.
first and foremost, and then Oz was
Hmm.
another series that was heavy. I mean, I could have did without all the homosexual,
Yeah.
stuff. I thought
Yeah.
it was a bit drastic, and Even though you have that element within the system, I think that they poured too much into it.
Yeah.
And, I could be wrong. I've never been a CEO. I have people who are, um, and I know that out of state, you know, the facilities are different. you
Yeah.
know so maybe they use those things. um but for me, I just thought it was a little too much, but it was still a really good show. The character depth, the
Hmm.
storylines, it was still good. So to hear that is sounds very interesting. um so now these things are happening for you. Is there another book in the works?
So that's part of the trilogy that's coming into play. Like I said, I'm working on that while I'm working on the movie that I'm in right now. So all the fun stuff and the acting stuff. Um, on top of that, there is a bigger project, way bigger than anything that I have going on, and that is can't really talk too much about it, but I mean, I'm talking like Hollywood,
Oh,
Hollywood,
wow.
big numbers, big players. So this is probably going to be my first one that is just like wow, you know. Outside of that, I got the Haunted or Not, which is a web series. That one I worked on last year, and now we're dropping the first episode the end of June. So that one's kind of cool. I'm excited to see what that looks like because that a lot of hard work went into that one.
Where are they dropping that at?
It's gonna be on it's just gonna be on YouTube. You know, it's gonna be for the channel for the fans, so on and so forth. So we're just gonna keep it like very easy and small and accessible for everybody.
Nice, nice.
You know what I mean? So I feel like that one was a lot of fun. So we're just gonna keep it that way.
I feel like people don't understand the grasp, not the grasp, the reach. YouTube. I mean, it's like the new TV,
Yeah,
right? Everybody comes here to
yeah,
YouTube. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I it may not be in a major network, but when in reality in today's world, it is a major network.
yeah. I mean,
You know,
for the for the older adults, it's still very small. But for the younger adults and younger, that's the network that everybody goes to. Yeah, people
exactly.
people don't watch regular TV anymore. If they need a self help, if they need to learn how to do something, if they need some information about something, if they don't have the money to spend for a film, they're going to YouTube.
Yeah,
If they don't want to pay a subscription, they're going to YouTube.
emphatically. I learned how to stream. I learned how to the equipment that I bought. I mean, I learned everything through YouTube.
Hmm.
I didn't take and right now, speaking of which, I'm working to connect with a friend of mine who does. He works at a facility for teens, and they do a lot of outreach work for troubled youth.
Hmm.
So hopefully in the next month or so, I'm going to be teaching podcasting to kids
That's
from
freaking.
like, yeah, from like 15 to like say 18. And I'm hoping to sort of document all of that to see their progression and share it with the world.
Yeah,
Uh, I think it's again, as we said earlier, having these examples of people that looked and reflect who we are, that we can see ourselves in, will give them the motivation and saying, "Hey, yo, you know what? I can do this," and who knows? So that's amazing, man. I'm very happy for you. Um, but I'm gonna say this. When there has to come a point sometime where we have you in studio, um and hopefully when all these things start rolling, some strange reason you find yourself in New York City, and hopefully by that time I'm going to be in this facility man, we could have a face-to-face sit down in front of these young guys, man.
I got you. I know. So I've been invited to the Puerto Rican Day Parade as a
Nice.
guest, right? So, if I'm around when you're around, let's make it happen. It's just easy
Oh, for sure.
to lock that in.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just know, uh, if you have anything going on, like you're releasing a project, a book, anything, you're making an appearance, send it over to me. I'll gladly I tell every guest that I have on, if you have something going on, send it over to me and I'll be glad to promote it, because you giving me your time is, I have to give back. And I love to see the people that we speak with, get their due. So if it means that I could promote something that you're doing and get you out there, to make you known to the audience that we deal with, I'll gladly do that. So you're always welcome to forward those things over. You're always welcome on the show to discuss a new book or project, or just anything that you like to talk about, Veterans Affairs. And you're always welcome here, man. Anytime.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Of course.